So the next piece we're going to dive into is now we're going to start getting into the actual texts and the strategies that go with them. So we're going to follow this kind of structure for the rest of the day. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to identify the text, the strategy, provide you with an additional resource you might use, and then we'll go through some slides of actually applying the strategy, and then Casey's going to fill in at the end of that with some English language learner considerations in preparation. So it's nice to have her here to get that little blend in. And then we'll do a discussion point at the end where you talk and process and share out some of the big ideas that came of it. So the first thing we're going to dive into, again, is this passage adapted from the speech delivered by the Congresswoman, Barbara Jordan. And again, that was the questions 15 through 19. We're going to do a guided highlighted reading. So what I'd like to do then is reference you to the, I'm going to reference you quickly to the online document just so you can see where the resources are that you can access. And then you're going to actually participate. So I hear you grabbing markers, and that's perfect if you want to make sure to have a marker or a highlighter. If you don't have a highlighter, if we don't have enough at your table, just grab a pencil and underline or a pen. So what we're going to do is in my SAT focus area strategies for literacy, I have provided you with obviously a rationale around the guided highlighted reading. So what it provides, some of the materials. So we've actually given you just this generic template you can use. I pulled the text for you. So I pulled that Barbara Jordan text out if you wanted to actually do the activity, again, with staff or students. This is what I'm about to read through with you that I kind of set up. And then, pardon me, the vocabulary piece, which a lot of time comes into it. And if you didn't already see that in this particular section, vocabulary is obviously a big deal. So that's where you can get to this information moving forward. But without ado, I am going to dive in and treat you as though you're going to do a guided highlighted reading with me. So everybody should have the sample from Casey? No? Oh, she went to make more copies. That's probably what she did. You have some extras? Oh, good. Does everybody else have them? You do not? Others that don't? Raise your hand if you don't have. They might be sitting. You got them? Okay, so these 3 tables don't? Okay. Okay, so I hope she's making more copies where she took off, so I'll set the context before I get into the actual reading of it, okay? So, as it says in here, so we're going to explain this. So what you're reading here, and so when I did this guided highlighted reading, what really scared me, the text analysis of it, was I read through it again, and even then when I went to kind of pose the questions, I thought, what did I just read? I had to think about it again, and it wasn't until I actually went to the questions that helped me get a better feel for what's going on. So the context here is that Barbara is giving a speech, and her speech, in it, she references the Federalist Papers, and someone asked a great question about paired text, and so I confirmed with Casey on that. The whole paired text piece is that of those passages, one of the passages will pair 2 texts together, and this is one of those where it's pairing her speech with the Federalist Papers. So it's referencing, so in her speech, she references an excerpt from the Federalist Papers, therefore it's a paired text, all right? Keeping that in mind, she is speaking around the idea of Nixon's impeachment. She's not speaking to the impeachment itself, but what she's doing is trying to create kind of a base to where she's setting the stage that this impeachment is because something indeed has been done that will cause impeachment, as the Constitution dictates. It's not a political railroading, if you will. So they're not setting up some party line thing to go after him. Legitimately, something has been done wrong, and impeachment is the answer. And she's trying to validate that in the speech. So I posed some different questions you might ask of students, questions you might ask to help them understand a context. What is the role of the House Judiciary Committee? You might ask who serves on the House Judiciary Committee. You might ask what does impeachment mean? I'm reading off of my guided highlighted reading, so it's on that document. But I'm treating you again as students without having you actually answer and process through. What is a hearing? And what does a hearing on impeachment suggest? So some different contextual questions you might ask to help kids get in that mindset. I also provided links to different pictures through Google Docs. Here, I'll pull. Do you mind clicking on the guided highlighted reading for me? This will help you have it in front of you. So right here I provided pictures. So the current House of Representatives, a picture of Barbara Jordan in the past, and then the actual picture of the impeachment hearing. And then I did the current House of Representatives to the Michigan House of Representatives, so the federal House of the nation's federal House of Representatives and Michigan's House of Representatives. Contextual things for students there. Then there's a vocabulary strategy to consider, and then I gave a list of vocabulary words. Obviously, you wouldn't go through all of these words with kids, but I pulled out some of the ones that I felt led the most, which actually ended up being quite a list. And you probably were already experiencing that as you were trying to muddle your way through even that first paragraph that's provided. So considering those different pieces that you can go through to set it up, I then am going to kind of read through and let you do the guided highlighted reading process. So you obviously would let students do more work or more opportunity around that, but kind of just grabbing it and go, we'll do a few of these. Okay? So in the opening paragraph, so in the pre-paragraph there that kind of sets the context, highlight what type of text this is. In other words, what is this text? Also in the opening paragraph, highlight who delivered the speech. Based on some of the conversations we've had in class, quote unquote, and the other contextual things we've talked through, what is the context of this speech that's set in that opening paragraph? This could be a sentence or maybe a phrase. What kind of sets that context? Please highlight that. And finally, in the opening paragraph, highlight the president in question. Okay, jumping down to lines 3 and 4. Highlight the section that tells how she, the speaker, Barbara, feels about the Constitution in lines 3 and 4. Highlight the section that tells how she, Barbara Jordan, feels about the Constitution. And so instead of going through all the pieces, let's jump down. Lines 18 through 20. Lines 18 through 20. Highlight the section that suggests what the powers of the Constitution are around impeachment. Highlight the section that suggests what the powers of the Constitution are around impeachment. Lines 22 and 23 now. In lines 22 and 23, highlight the section that identifies the rights given to the House of Representatives and the Senate. Highlight the section that identifies the rights given to the House of Representatives and the Senate. Lines 27 to 31. So in those lines, 27 through 31. Highlight the section that tells the nature of impeachment. Highlight the section that tells the nature of impeachment. in lines 32 and 33. Highlight the section that describes what power Congress has. Okay. And so we could continue on, but you're kind of getting a feel for it. So what I tried to do in the exercise was kind of trying to point out, some of the high points, but then also asking questions that were possibly right in the text, found directly there, or one where some inferencing had to occur. So I tried to do the best I could with those different pieces. So what we've created then is this guided highlighted piece for you. Kind of gave you a chance to kind of experience it. I kind of read through some of those pieces, and we kind of abbreviated that time frame. I didn't necessarily click on all the different pictures, but they're there. And so this can kind of help set up that context. So the idea would be that you would do something similar around a text to kind of set the context for kids and help them understand. So the more you analyze the text, as we know from our Common Core State Standards, multiple reads through a single piece, we get a better understanding of it. And the more we practice those skills, right? So highlighting, what are the skills that we're doing? It's guided highlighted reading has been advanced to be even deeper than this. You can do a different colored highlighter, for example, and you might ask questions more around vocabulary. And having kids find meanings of words within it, because we know, as you saw in some of those questions, that they're asking those same kinds of questions. You could even go to another color if you were thinking of something else that you could have kids go through and identify. The point is that we're trying to help kids understand what are the skills that we're using to uncover what the text is actually saying. And so guided highlighted reading is really helping unmask those strategies that we just innately do and getting it out there in the open. And I wanted to provide you with a sample around a given context so you had that to move forward with. So that's a guided highlighted reading strategy, and I thought it very appropriate, especially for this one. And like I said, in full disclosure, even just reading through it a couple times, I was left kind of like, wow. There's a lot of information going on in here, and if I didn't have that context set or have a way to go about defining that, I could be stumped. Question? I don't know about what it looks like marking the text. I would doubt it, but I don't know. Like how does it stand with ACT? Then I'm assuming it would be a similar setup. Yep. Yeah, that's a good question. Okay.